Well, good morning, everybody. This is IT Live brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Tex Homer. That's Paul Wadlington. And this is the Tuesday show. We are first going to have a little quick chat about the Jonah Williams injury. Then we're going to talk about Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers, how they complement each other, how they're similar, but also different. And then we'll talk over at the end some of the win totals, I think, released on FanDuel for this upcoming season. Should be a fun time. Everyone head over to Inside Texas right now. We got a spring sale, 50% off. Of course, our board, Inside Texas, on 3 for national football news, and then you get that with Rivals as well for all your recruiting needs. Really good deal. Ultimate Fan Bundle. Go down below in the description, click that link, and it'll take you right to it. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Carl.
Jonah Williams and guys, Paul frees up a little bit, but he can hear us, so he'll be here in audio mostly. Jonah Williams gets hurt playing baseball. Looks like he's going to be out for the season. Then, of course, everybody has their points on what that should mean and what inferences on what that means for his future. But I figured we would hear your take first because you always got something interesting.
So he's probably going to need to pick a sport.
Do you have a sport preference for him? Huh? Would you have a sport preference for him?
I prefer he play football.
But selfishly, it's football, right?
It would be fine if he played baseball. And the third option would be he continue playing both sports. And then the fourth option would be he transfer to someone who will allow him to play both sports. Look, ultimately, football is paying the bills. Football is paying the NIL. So you probably should define yourself as a football player first. And if you don't want to do that, then don't be upset if your NIL gets cut 70, 80%. Because you can't really afford to pay a guy to not play the sport because he's always injured. And I think because the sports are so different and the sort of load they put on you is different. You know, baseball, you play a lot, but it's deceptive in that, you know, I mock baseball, you know, all the time, somewhat jokingly, is like, you know, it's not an athletic sport, but there's a lot of standing around and then you have to do something athletic, right? And football is more like you really need to train for it year round to get in football shape. There's a reason they talk about being in football shape. And if you're not in football shape, you're going to pull your hamstrings. And that's typically, you know, that's what happened to him last year. So he's been at Texas now for 2 years and he hasn't really played a sport.
Well, he was injured his senior year too, right? At Galveston Ball.
And some of that's, you know, small, you know, soft tissue injury or, you know, if you break a bone or something, stuff like that happens, right? But ultimately, there's a reason Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson are very rare creatures. And there's also a reason that Bo Jackson saw his NFL career ended early because he wasn't really conditioning football year round. And it's really a sport that, particularly if you're a guy who runs around a lot, you need to have that sort of conditioning base. And baseball is not a good preparation for it.
And both those guys are incredible one-of-one talents, but those are also not recent examples. You know, on top of that, you know, I'm not saying that they couldn't still do it. They would because they were incredible, but still, it's not. We have to reach back pretty far to get like really concrete examples of that. So, yeah.
Well, you know, I'll say something to Connor. You know, this is something that how sports have changed and people still haven't adjusted, even though everyone knows intellectually there's NIL and all that stuff, right? These are paid players now. People are like, well, he should follow his dream, you know. This is a bunch of middle-aged men telling a 19-year-old what to do. And it's like, actually, he's got a guy that pays him money, and that guy's paying him money to play football. And he's not preparing himself to play football. And the little side quest of baseball is indulged if it's not going to impinge upon the thing that's paying his NIL money, which is football. So if he is not participating in football because of injury 2 years in a row, the guy who's paying his money is going to say, I don't want to pay you anymore. And if he gets upset about that, that's part of being a big boy, being a grown-up. You kind of have people who count on you and pay you money. And if you don't want to come through for them, don't be upset when they want to cut what they pay you or part ways.
And also, baseball's not happy either. You know, it's like neither one of them is getting what they want out of that, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. it's not like he was going to be here a lot during the spring anyways to pick up Muschamp's scheme, which is also a problem just without injury. But
Yeah.
now you have no ability to do that as well. It's just, yeah, you don't want it to get to a point where like if he picks baseball or football, it's great, but baseball's still not even getting him. So it's just kind of a lose-lose across the board there. So we'll have to see. I think he's draft eligible next year in baseball. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even if he wants to optimize for baseball, I think he wants to play a season of college baseball and show
it's generally important. It's
he's not
considered
just a potential draft pick. And baseball will draft athletes higher than they should, just because there's a paucity of really elite athletes in the game. And the whole attitude in baseball is like, hey, we can teach him some of this stuff. The athleticism is not something we can teach to an athletic deficit, right? So, but it would be very helpful for him if he like played a season of baseball.
Well, and I brought up another way to look at it. Why not try to add a third sport in there?
Yeah.
Like, why not? Everyone's trying to eliminate sports. Let's add sports and see. We haven't thought about the inverse. So I think that's important. We can see if maybe he can do some track or something like that as well.
Golf.
But it's a bummer, man. And it's a bummer because when you do those rare times you see him on the field, your eye immediately, like when you have the all 22 and can actually see the secondary, your eye immediately tracks to him because has incredible size. But I just hope we get to see him semi-maximize playing football for the University of Texas because he's really exciting. It'd be different if it was a player that was like, fighting for second string reps or whatever. But the future of him seems potentially bright. So that's why I think it's more frustrating too.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's in a way, look, all things told, it's nice to make hundreds of thousands of dollars to play college football now, right? But you are giving up some of your agency. When people pay you for a product, you're expected to deliver the product. And it's not about, I'm going to chase my dreams and YOLO. Like, dude, you got a boss.
And that's kind of the old school mind, the benefits of the new school with an old school mindset. And they kind of clash a little bit. The old school mindset was like, I'm just a young boy, looking for my fun. But it's like, okay, you're getting paid a lot of money, dude. So you have to think a little bit different. You are a professional athlete. We can dance around it all we want. You're being paid to play a sport. You're a professional athlete. So yeah. Ryan Nelson asks, Homer, Paul, thoughts on Lincoln Riley and USC players asking Matt Leinart if they can use number 11. Lincoln Riley runs a soft program. I haven't heard that, but yeah.
I'm not a big retired numbers guy. I don't believe in it.
Neither am I. But it is, and also too, we're getting to that age where they're like, who cares about Matt Leinart? Like the new generation, it's like we're getting to that age. Like I would have been the same way if I was 19 and you named a quarterback from 20 years ago that I didn't watch. I'd be like, he's got to be dead by now, anyways, right? He doesn't care.
See,
I'm officially getting to that generation that's no longer sentimental about those USC days.
I'm a football dork, and I grew up a Texas fan, so I had programs from the 1980s where I would go through the statistical section and memorize it, and have my older siblings or my father or my mom quiz me. And so I always laugh because there was a whole time period where Texas didn't throw the forward pass. And so for years, our highest completion percentage quarterback in a single season was a guy named Mike Cotton, who completed 57% of his passes.
Nice.
And everyone was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then Colt completed, 70, that 1 year, or over 70. But yeah, I mean, I always knew the history and always knew all the players and stats and who was great and all that stuff. And
you love history in general.
I do. And you know what? My son actually does. And the way he does, Texas issues college football cards of like Texas players. So my son has Earl Campbell cards. He's got Ricky Williams cards. He's got, Tommy Nobis cards. And so he studies them and then will make me quiz him about it. So he knows all this stuff. And so I'll be watching a game with him and I'll be like, he hit that guy like Tommy Nobis. and it's pretty funny. Like, he never saw him play.
I was on the Vince train. I had no idea of any of the history. It's just Vince Young was like magic, man. And
football started with him.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was on the Vince train, and then Colt came right after, and that stuff like that. So I had to go back and learn. You heard Earl Campbell. Like you live in Texas. They're in the air somewhere. But yeah, I had no clue of like the history of Texas. I had no sentimentality about it. Let
me ask you more broadly. What do you think about retiring numbers? I don't really like it, and I think it's kind of cool to have certain numbers where like, this is the stud number, and you get to wear it if you earn it, like for your senior year. I don't know. What is your thought on it in general? Is it a good way
I think it's silly, especially when numbers are very finite. Like it goes up to 90. Like if you could go up to number 706 on offense, sure. But it's like if you have enough good players, and especially when they're quarterbacks, like anywhere from like 1 through 12, those are prime number. Like people want those numbers. I remember always in football, the kids would argue over like if I ain't getting one. So it's like if you retire like, I don't know, 97 nose tackle, it's like, okay, but you can't steal like the prime numbers that everybody wants. I'm just not sentimental about that at all.
Well, and I'm an expert numerologist.
That is true. You've showed that many a time.
And I know I can predict your career based on your number. So you don't want to take away elite options. Like number 20 is a sweet number, but it's retired at Texas. So, we've had safeties deprived of that number. We've had running backs deprived of that number. That's tough.
Yeah. Because not respecting elders is cool. I think there's a different way, right? Like if you're just going to be like, who the hell is Matt Leinart? Give me the number. Then of course that's disrespectful. But and here's the reality too, the game that goes on with it. It's like this 5-star that you're about to pay this money. They sweeten the pot with numbers. Like don't like they talk numbers before, And so yeah, if you're being rude about it, I mean, Leinart was legendary, but I don't think asking is necessarily the problem. It depends on how you ask, or if you're delusional, right? Like if you're not very good and you want Matt Leinart's number, I think, So I think there's context to it, but I don't really, like I said, the numbers thing doesn't really matter that much to me.
Syracuse,
Homer, you might be younger than I thought. I am 32.
Oh wow. So Syracuse used to do a thing with 44. Like if you were an elite player, you got 44. So Ernie Davis, Jim Brown, Daryl Johnston was a 44, Cowboys fullback back in the day. So I kind of like that. I like that.
I agree. I think that's good. Like if the number's special, use it as an honor.
Yeah.
Like don't retire it to where no one can wear it. Make somebody have to earn that number, and it means something to have it, I guess.
Right. And no jackass freshman can pick it.
Correct. Like you're a junior or a senior and you've proven that you're about the program. Here, you can wear this number. I think that's a good in between there. But once again, it's just like there's not that actual many numbers. And especially when you're getting down to skill guys, there's really not that many numbers. And so retiring them, if you have like, 4 or 5 legendary players that you've retired, it gets a little logistically tough.
Yes.
All right. You ready to talk old Raleek and Hollywood?
Yeah.
So let's see what they got here. Our man Parker from Stats of War. Is this from CFB Graphs?
No, it's from his new company, Dropback.
Oh, cool.
So they're doing GM type consulting for a bunch of different college and maybe NFL, but I know college programs. Yeah. And they're trying to create metrics around players and how to evaluate them and judge them. And I think it's a worthy endeavor because there's just so many guys in the portal and it's hard to get eyes on all of them. And I think it's a good starting point, I think, for like, okay, here's the 7 guys we want to watch film on and see, if we want to dig deeper. But he did a thing on all the best portal running backs. And according to their metrics, Hollywood, Smothers, and Raleek Brown were the top 2 portal available running backs. Trey Wisner was 5th.
Yep. I thought you'd be a Ricky Williams fan growing up. That was the first U2 player. I knew about him, but not like a fan.
You're not a fan.
I was actually, huh?
You weren't a fan of Ricky Williams?
No, but not when I mean fan, I mean like actually study, watch it, like in love with them. It was just like I grew up in Texas. I was an NFL fan first. I didn't get into college until really probably Vince. And I don't come from a sports family either. My great grandfather was a pro and stuff like that, but the generations after that, they didn't even watch sports. I was like, I broke the curse of non-sports watching, but I was NFL. I didn't get into Texas and pretty much until Vince.
Interesting.
Yep. All right. So let's look at these numbers, Paul. We'll break them down. Their metrics are normally pretty
Have
cool.
you ever thought of changing your internet name to Texas Latecomer?
I wasn't a latecomer, dude. I was of reasonable age.
Because you're claiming I'm Mr. Texas. I'm Texas Homer. I'm the authority on all things Texas.
That is what I said.
That way too.
Yeah.
And you're always like, I studied that and I taught. So Texas.
You got no one knows ball, only me. That's
right.
That's one of my sayings.
That's one of the keys on the YouTube comments.
Yeah. When anyone tries to correct me, I'm like, this is someone that doesn't know ball speaking to someone that does.
You're like, I'm Texas.
What you fools don't understand.
what you fail to understand. That's great. Private joke there.
Yeah, inside joke. All right. So, okay, we've addressed it. I'm a imposter.
Texas latecomer.
Texas latecomer. All right. So, what do we learn here from these here numbers, Paul?
Well, what we learned there's some interesting things that we look at here. We're looking at, are you forcing missed tackles? Are you evading tackles? Are you running through tackles? What's your yards after contact? That's a good basic metric for a running back's efficacy. You're going to get contact on the field on most plays, right? Unless it's just flawlessly blocked. So what do you do once a guy hits you? And then we're looking at pass blocking. Pass protection is important, and that is going to be a weakness for both of these gentlemen. We can circle back on that one. And then we look at something called run grade, which is inclusive of sort of all the things that a runner can do, but it's also effectively grading what was available on the run. And a run grade over, I'd say 75 is pretty good. And then if you're getting in the 80s, that's real good. High 80s, very, very good. So, and then also this is all factored in with the explosivity. When it's all coming together, can you punish that defense? Or is it going to be an 11-yard run, right? Or is it going to be a 51-yard run? So that's where they look at these backs. They rate them the 1-2 in the portal. Raleek Brown was actually number 1. And the big reason was his run grade. So Raleek Brown is really interesting because we tend to look at him and Hollywood Smothers. They're both about the same size, right? And you're like, they're just both two, quick, fast guys, and they're interchangeable. They have similarities. You got to understand their aptitudes as well. And so one of Raleek Brown's aptitudes is he's good at running where they ain't. He can cut over 2 gaps. He's nifty. If you run him inside, he'll actually detect a little crease and he'll pound it in there. But the difference is once he gets contact, he's an average to above average running back. Okay. Hollywood Smothers doesn't have as good a core run grade as Raleek Brown. I believe it's 79 and some change. Mm-hmm. But when he gets contact, he's absolutely elite. 4.92 yards after contact, which is sick.
Yeah, it is for that size too.
And so I was able to find a highlight which exactly embodied this, which is it's a run. There's a safety that's got an angle on him. It should be a 4, 5, 6 yard gain. And Hollywood Smothers just clowns the guy, like evades him and then just shakes off his arm tackle like he's nothing and then takes off down the sideline. So that is the Hollywood Brown thing. And he's actually more explosive than Raleek Brown. But Raleek Brown, down to down, might see it a little bit better. The problem is you also have to factor for offensive line, scheme, all that stuff.
Yeah.
No doubt Raleek Brown had a better offensive line. There's no
what were they? 90? NC State's offensive line was like 94th in yards before carry. So
they had one guy who could play who transferred out.
Yeah. And what was wild is their backs were 9th in yards after carry.
Yeah.
So everything the NC State backs did, Smothers and including their number 2 was pretty good too.
Yep.
They basically had to make everything on their own. If and this is what's nice about Smothers, even though he's smaller. If you line him up in the gap, he's going down. If you hit him directly square, but you don't get to hit him directly square that often.
No.
And if you do some half-ass weak arm tackle, he gets through it. So it's not just a pure speed thing. I haven't broken down Brown, but I did break down Smothers. Go to Inside Texas if you want to read my evaluation. But I was really impressed with him. I thought he was sound too. He would just press his gap correctly. There wasn't a lot of times where, even in pass blocking, he's not a good pass blocker, but on the few reps he did have it, I mean, he knew who to look at, all of these things too. So I thought Smothers was a much more heady player than I guess you would think when you just watch him running fast in the highlight.
Yeah, and if you want to sort of sum it all up, Brown is a run maximizer who squirts into little slivers of daylight. Smothers shakes off or evades defenders at an elite rate. Those are the two things that make them sort of special. And then Brown, down to down, might be the more consistent runner. And Smothers is going to humiliate a linebacker or safety in space and be a little bit more likely to drop a big run. Interesting thing, too, I don't know if you noticed, Homer, that both of them don't have elite long speed.
They don't. And I remember, so the first, I don't know how, things get put in your head. It's like, wow, these are all elite speed backs. Somewhere on the ethos, it got in my head. And then I was watching the tape and I was like, it's not necessarily the case. And then I went and looked at his 100 meters and he didn't have it was in the 11s. So it's not impressive actual speed. I say above average speed specifically in there. I don't want to say elite speed. So it is faster, but they have good quickness. They have good acceleration. They have fast reads. And so it looks fast, but they're not just like pure track burners.
Yeah. So I think someone was like, oh, so we're kind of like a Jamal Charles backfield again. And it's like, no. So Jamal Charles did not get caught from behind. And also Jamal Charles was a workhorse. People forget he was a 20-25 carry back his last year. I don't think Brown or Smothers is that guy, which is why we got both. So you want to keep their carries between 10 and 15 each, keep them both fresh. I don't think either one can take a workload. And some of that's a function of size, but there's also been running backs that aren't huge who are workhorse backs. They can carry that load. And, college examples are Marshall Faulk, Barry Sanders, Jamal Charles. If you guys remember a guy at San Diego State named Donnell Pumphrey, who was one of the biggest all-time leading rushers in college football history. He was like 180 pounds, and he would carry it 30 times a game. So size isn't always the indicator, but generally the bigger you are, the more you can carry the load, broadly speaking. Neither of these guys is going to be a workhorse. So we need to be smart in alternating them. And we also probably need to play a third back a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see who emerges in that regard.
So Smothers, when I was evaluating the tape, is like an elite ball knower. And then you kept talking about Jamal Charles. Never heard of him, but I guess I'll go look. But he was never in on short yardage, goal line, or backed up, right? And so that was always kind of something that stuck out to me. So when you're talking about that third back, when I evaluate Brown, I'll have to see. But he never was even. They didn't even put him in those situations. I think they would go with number 4, who was like a stockier guy. So I think that does, at least for Smothers, lead to like a third back option for other situations, for pass blocking and or short yardage.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about situational football, pass blocking, which is a much more common situation, and then also goal line or short yardage, which is important, right? I think Raleek might be the better of the two as a goal line back or short yardage, but there might be a subtle difference. And here's this. If you're good enough and you have enough threats outside that we can line up in our base offense, not even go big on 3rd and 2.
Yeah.
Smothers might be a good option for that because the opposing team might fire someone in the backfield and Smothers can address sort of like a dirty backfield better.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to like push through contact and, or find daylight maybe 2 gaps over as well as Raleek Brown. So,
which is interesting, and I have to watch Brown because Smothers is very ABC of a reader. It doesn't. Yeah. So what and I'll have to see when I study him, but is Raleek just have more of that flighty sensibility? Because it's like Smothers is like, I'm reading, gap. Like he's sound.
So Raleek sees it, and he's so quick, he can jump over 2 gaps and then burrow in.
Catch everyone off guard.
Yeah, and so that's like 3rd and 1. They block it well or they defend it well at the point of attack where the gap's supposed to be. He's right before he hits the guard's butt and gets stuffed. He spins and takes 2 steps towards a little sliver of daylight and then dives in and gets 2 yards.
And that's great on short yardage. That actually worked. Quick hitting. Yeah. People think it's all about powering through. It's actually how you beat a defense on those short yardage is actually finding the light before they realize you do.
Yep. And then in pass pro, neither is very good. And then some of that's just physical, reality. Some of it's some of it's technique. So maybe we can address some of the latter parts, because you got to sell these guys on, hey, in the NFL, they're going to expect you to square up on a linebacker. That's going to increase your value. The other thing I'd propose is park one of our tight ends in the backfield. Put Masunis, Townsend, Winston back there and let them be the blocker, and then have the running back go out in motion. That's one possibility.
Smothers fine in the quick game. Like he reads well. He'll get up and get in front of them. He'll meet the actual block. You know how guys tend to like turn and duck at guys.
Yeah,
he'll do that fine. You just never see him on like true 12 personnel. The quarterback's going to hold the ball for 4 seconds. They're getting him out immediately. But as far as like functional, this is a short route, he'll step up and slow a guy down. That part's fine. But suspiciously, they never ask him to hold up in like, hey, they're throwing the fade. He's a pressure release valve. So they're sending him out and they're making nickels and linebackers chase him and open it up, which I honestly think will be helpful. Remember there was that period with Sark where like just stopped throwing it to backs because we weren't super dynamic in the pass game. So that little angle I think will help to and I haven't seen Brown, but yeah, Smothers not in the deep passing game, but he's functional enough. That's why the grade kind of confuses me with how dinged he is, because there's not a lot of tape of him even doing it to evaluate. And then when he does, there wasn't anything horrific. I didn't see him just get completely ran over, like miss an assignment. But I did watch 3 games. There's other games, right?
Yeah, and so here's the other thing to consider, and it's sort of opposed perspectives. One guy's running against Big 12 defenses. The other guy's running against ACC defenses. And NC State, unless you played Miami and Louisville, you didn't really play any real defenses in the ACC, right? But that's counterweighted by the fact that they were both the focus of their respective offenses, and there wasn't as much surrounding talent as they're going to have for Texas. So I don't know where to put the emphasis on that analysis. You could say, well, they were playing kind of inferior, the lower P2 of the P4, right? But at the same time, they're playing on very flawed teams and got a lot of attention. So, Texas is going to have a very different cast of characters surrounding these guys, and that's going to help.
At least on the edges, like on the outside. Here's the thing. What if Texas offense, because remember last year I was making fun of NC State's yards before carry. Texas was worse. And so they were like 107th with running
yards before contact.
Yeah, yards before contact. Sorry. And so we were even worse at NC State. The difference with these guys are that when they had worse situations, they still got things done.
Yes.
And that just didn't happen with our backs, save for a couple games, right? No. And so even this is what helps me sleep at night, is that even if the offensive line doesn't improve in run blocking, we will still be better, because these backs have shown that they're better after contact than we had. So even if it doesn't go perfectly and we don't solve the offensive line, we should still have some touchdowns in the run game.
Well, and if you're game planning Texas this year, and obviously we have to prove it, like we have to get out on the field and show we can do things, right?
Yeah.
I'm playing 2 safeties high, man. And whatever Texas runs for, Texas runs for. And I think that's going to create some real opportunities for both Brown and Smothers. So I think it's going to be a virtuous environment for both of them.
Before we keep going, let's hear a word from Academy.
Oh, it's an auto worm bite, turns out.
Giant. Oh, giant.
It's a giant, so.
Oh, it's a giant! Oh, it's a giant giant! It's a quiet giant!
Exciting. All right. Anything you think we missed here on our new running backs, Paul? Oh,
No,
pass
I just
game.
wanted.
What do you think about pass game too?
So they both caught a lot of balls, but they were both kind of outlets.
Yeah,
they didn't have designated passing use. And so you'll notice their yards per catch was not good. Pretty pedestrian for both of them. I don't think that's a commentary on their ability. I think it's a commentary on how they were used in those offenses.
But that's where I noticed the speed wasn't exactly what I thought. And so
yeah, I mean,
that's where I know. So they throw it out, and then if they weren't at full speed, like a corner or a safety would get to him. So that's why I listed Smothers. Like if you match him up with a non-DB, he's going to win that race. But secondaries can generally kind of keep up. But also, the routes are pretty obvious. It's a quick pass to the flat. They know where it's going, but they weren't as dominant in the pass game as I thought.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're not Jamal Charles. They don't have that finishing speed. They're not 10-2, 10-3, 100 meters guys. But they are very, very agile, very dexterous, very quick. And Smothers in particular, he gets on those defenders fast. And you can tell that they're kind of shocked by his acceleration. But once he schools that guy and kind of clowns him in the open field, you'll see him get run down.
And no contact shyness from Smothers. I haven't seen Brown.
No,
like he's very confident, and that's why he's able to get a lot of these yards per carry because it's a lot of glancing blows. So he's like running quickly through the hole, and the guy hits him on the side. He just bounces off, and he might fall down, but his momentum's so fast he'll fall down 3 yards ahead. And so it was those kind of things, just adding to the run that I thought was important. So luckily, I don't think we got any scared kind of contact avoidant small guys. Like you can tell me about Brown, but that wasn't the case for Smothers at all.
Not at all. Not at all for Brown. And Brown's very comfortable running inside. Arizona State spams inside zone and duo. And if you're not willing to get into the mix, you're not going to be able to play running back for those guys. They didn't change things up because Cam Scadaboo left. They were still calling the same sorts of stuff. And Raleek gets in there. The point is he's running downhill quickly, but trying to find that sliver of daylight and dart into it. Once a guy gets contact on him, he's just a guy. Like he's nothing special in terms of slipping tackles. Whereas Smothers, the play is not yet over when the defender makes contact with him.
Yeah.
But I like both. I do like, look, anytime you get an opinion that's confirmatory to your own, then you're like, that's a good opinion, right?
Right.
But there's a reason Parker says these are the top 2 running backs in the portal. And I think they're complementary. And I think that Texas, would be very smart to keep both of them limited in carries and try to keep them fresh, and then try to integrate a third back whenever you can. And I think we've got good enough options. People talk about Derek Cooper, people talk about Michael Terry. Don't forget James Simon actually looked pretty good last year when we did play him. So, we've got some options and we've got some, and I got to say also, Homer, as fun as it is to chase stats late in games, especially when you can break long runs because the defense is tired. If the game gets out of hand, let's get Smothers and Raleek Brown on ice and let other people get in there. And both guys will be pissed and like, man, I only have 7 carries. Let me get up to 12, whatever. You just got to put them on ice and be like, hey, man, we're saving you for Oklahoma next week. We're not trying to drive up stats and, let James Simon or Terry or Cooper finish out the fourth quarter.
Yeah, let exciting young players get reps and see what they can do. We failed to mention the actual third running back, Arch Manning, too. So that's going to be a big factor. He can do some of the heavier lifting. What was funny is through the film study, I went in thinking we got track burners, and that was not true. And then I found a bunch of other things about him that I didn't know about him that are really good. And so they're more well-rounded than I realized, and I think that's important. They've worked. I don't know about Arizona State, but NC State was a bad offensive line, and they made it work. A lot of his highlights are bounced outside, but if you look at the end zone view from the All-22, the hole is not there.
There's a reason.
These guards are getting thrown, and there's just a 3-tech sitting there like every time. So he's actually reading I don't grade them on which hole they go through. I grade them on if they read their progressions. And he would always read his progressions. A lot of it looked like he's an outside runner. They were calling inside runs. It's just they could not run inside. And but to have the bounce out with our offensive line, have that as a factor is important too. So I can't grade backs at Texas, unfortunately, on what do they look like with great offensive run blocking, because we don't have that. So selecting for these type of backs that make things happen when it's not perfect, I think is the correct fit for Texas.
Yeah, and I mean, I think conservatively even, we went from a top 40, top 50 room to a top 10 room. And if you just want to limit it to SEC, we went from the bottom quartile of the SEC. There's 16 teams. I mean, bottom quartile is being generous. I think we have the second worst running backs in the league, maybe third, if you're being nice. And I think we've gone from there to maybe the second best, third best running back room in the league. So,
and guys, you have to game plan for. Like, I'm not even going to be mean, but like if we were playing last year, I'm like, I don't care what these backs do. Let them run every down.
Yeah,
it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
As long as you're not OU and A&M.
Well, and so that's the other thing that's really interesting about these guys. Here's the connecting tangent, but not a tangent, if you follow my line of thought here. Some of our biggest defensive challenges this year are going to be high blitz, high replacement game up front defenses. So not just OU famously, but LSU. They blitz. They make Venables look soft. Like LSU brings it, right? Especially if you can't handle it. A&M brings it. Missouri, they don't always necessarily blitz, but their defensive linemen sprint up the field every play. And when you have running backs like these guys who you can get someone in the wrong gap and get these guys moving in some daylight, they can really punish a defense. And so that is going to be an interesting aspect of these guys, keeping their feet against the blitzer, walling and screening that guy off, and then these guys are shot out like a cannon. And Smothers is a guy, particularly, if they get that scenario and he's one-on-one in space with a go on either side on a OU safety, he's not going to get tackled for 12 yards. He's going to go for 50, 55, and maybe get run down on the 5-yard line. So I think that's going to be an exciting aspect of our run game, is that so many defenses we're going to be playing this year, particularly pretty good defenses, are going to be crazy blitz games, stunts, replacement games. And you want running backs that can really, really punish that with vision and quick feet.
Yeah, I agree. And Smothers has more, I guess, potential energy for me because his quarterback wasn't good and his line wasn't good. There's a better program at Arizona State with Brown. So he'll get a natural lift because Arch is good. But I just want to see what Smother looks like if the line is, in fact, improved. I don't know. But quarterback getting the ball to him quicker, because a lot of the checkdowns to Hollywood were like the quarterback took 45 seconds, and then even the DBs know that that's the only place the ball can go.
Yeah.
So I do want to see that. He also had a really varied route tree. You're used to just going to the flats, but he had everything. I mean, he was running angles. They would go into empty and put him out wide, and they actually threw a fade to him one time, and he beat his guy. It was a linebacker. They brought a linebacker out, but he beat his guy. The quarterback just threw a bad ball.
I didn't see that.
So he had a lot of varied route tree too. So it wasn't all just checkdowns to the flats, and he knew how to sit and settle and those kind of things. And if you can't pass block, hey, getting quick backs out and dumping it off to them is important too. So we just have a lot more flexibility here. We have a lot more explosivity than we had. We have the ability to break tackles more often. We just are likely missing the pass blocking component, and it doesn't feel like a big thing. Like when I was learning football, I was like, who cares about their pass blocking? Yeah, you should care about their pass blocking. So that is something we have to figure out. But I don't know how we'll do it.
And like I would say, encourage the fans, don't get into stat boy mode with these guys. I would strongly encourage Sark to put these guys on a pitch count and roll them out in the games where you really need them and lean on them. And then the games where you don't, I'm sorry, but for this game, you had 6 carries for 28 yards. Deal with it, man. Because next week we need you to carry it 16 times, and they've got to be really, really good carries. So,
make one of your 6 a home run. That's what they can do too.
Okay.
You got 6, but you got 40 on one. So it's do something like that.
But I would just say, we have a very challenging schedule, and we've got plans beyond the regular season, I hope. And I would just say, don't be shy about putting these guys on a pitch count and, using them in the games where you need them, because these are guys that are not, they're not guys that are 25, 30 carry guys. So even if one of them gets tweaked one week, don't put 27 carries on Smothers that week. Like let's spread out the load.
I don't even want to. I think you do that. I think you don't preach that method, because I think one of the psychological things last year.
No, you just do it. You don't tell the player.
Well, that was kind of annoyed me last year, because it's like, well, we're not doing the spring game because we got the national championship coming up, and all this kind of. And I thought it just kind of put the cart before the horse. The guys were just like, yeah, we have the play, and I think that we were young too. There's a billion other reasons, but yeah, don't preach that. Just do it, but don't make it just like, hey, it's a long season for us because we're guaranteed playoff success. But also it's like you can take those guys out. I want to see James Simon. I want to see Cooper. I want to see Terry. I want to see here we go. Don't forget American Patriot Jet Walker.
That's right.
And then Walker will end the season as the short yardage back. He runs with too much power. Jet Walker is a big don't sleep player. People love him. So we'll see.
Yeah, and look, it's also incumbent on those young guys. When they get put in the late third or early fourth and we're up 21 points, don't freaking fumble. Like
Smothers only has one career fumble. What about
he's not a fumbler. Raleek Brown, I've seen him fumble. Some of that is because he tries to go airborne or like he does goofy stuff, but they both got pretty good ball security. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. And then I also want to see what Raleek does, right? We have that added factor too of how
he yells at his running backs, so he's a good coach.
Therefore, he's good. Dude, it is crazy though, watching the clips of the drills, just how much faster they are.
Yeah,
like just running their drill, like they just move. It looks so different, just even in drills. So he's got a nice stable of talent there, and I think he can maximize it for sure. But it is true, yelling immediately equates to good coaching 90% of the time. I'm guilty of it. I asked Joe, one of my first questions were like, how loud was Muschamp on the field?
I mean,
so it gets me too.
It's funny.
All right, who's the best mortgage man in the whole wide world?
Well, here's a guy you don't have to yell at. This is a guy that you're only going to be talking in whispers of gratitude, and that's Gabe Winslow. You can reach him at 832-557-1095. He's not a Texas latecomer like some people we know.
Yeah.
He's a Texas grad. He's been a Texas fan his whole life, and he's not a latecomer to the mortgage industry. He's been in this industry for over 20 years. He is an award-winning broker. And what does a broker mean, Connor?
He shops from multiple people, man.
He takes your deal and he shops it to multiple lenders. He is not routed to one bank, one banker. Says, here's our rate, take it or leave it. No, we're going to leave it. We're going to take Gabe Winslow and we're going to embrace the power of capitalism. Even if you're a socialist, Gabe Winslow will get you a good deal. So just bite your lip and take the better deal that capitalism gave you and Gabe Winslow gave you. You can reach him at 832-557-1095. Tell him that Texas Homer sent you, and he will put you in his special group, his Velvet Touch Texas YouTube channel clients. You'll probably get a special newsletter. He'll probably send you like a cookie or something. There's all sorts of stuff that's going to happen for you, but most of all, you're just going to get an amazing mortgage guy. Give him a call, 832-557-1095.
A cookie, you say? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's solid. All right, Let's look at win totals for the SEC. They came out, and then Paul can always read these far better. I'm just like, numbers, incredible. I'm not a better at all. But Paul can actually break these down. Are there any teams you want to start with Texas and then work down?
Sure. Let's always start with Texas. It's good for the algorithm.
It's great. All right, here we go.
Go back up to the odds.
Oh, you actually want the odds?
There you go. Boy. Texas, it's alphabetical, Homer. There you go.
See, that's kind of your problem is like alphabetical makes logical sense, but for the article, you just want highest to lowest. It's a little easier to comprehend, but I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Just saying, dude. All right, here we go. 9.5.
You're kind of a read-off teleprompter, shallow TV guy.
Yeah, I have a teleprompter for everything. Yeah,
actually, you guys know that Connor and I have a script that we're reading off of.
Yeah, it's actually really impressive when you realize every single thing is scripted.
None of this is spontaneous. So Texas, 9.5 is set. So this is regular season wins. Here's the interesting thing, Connor. Our over is now plus 110. So what does that mean? It means Texas is, in the opinion of how Vegas sets lines, less likely to win more than 9.5 games than they are to lose 9.5 or more, or sorry, 2.5 or more. So they're saying 9-3 is more likely than 10-2. And what did we learn, irrespective of schedule, about this committee and 9-3?
That's an evil number, and you suck if you have 3 losses.
If you have 3 losses, you suck and you cannot be in a playoff. But if you have 2 losses and even if you played no one, then of course you belong.
Regardless if you beat multiple playoff teams, you clearly can't win in the playoffs.
So here's the challenge, and here's the interesting asymmetry of the odds. Texas is also one of the favored teams to win the national title this year. Reconcile that with the fact that they are seen as improbable or less likely to win more than 9 games in the regular season. Those are 2 contradictory ideas. And now you could say, well, they're saying they're not very likely to get in or as likely to get in, but if they get in, they're going to win it, right? Fair, but even if you kind of do the math on that, it doesn't marry.
It also doesn't it just also doesn't even make sense, like true at a core level.
So you have to decide, Texas fan, which is the true information.
What the Texas fan is going to pick.
Texas says over 10 fans, obviously.
Yeah, let's let the fans pick if they think the positive one is going to be their choice.
The unique thing about Texas as one of the main contenders for the national title this year is they're the most likely team, according to Vegas, to not even make the playoff. So keep that in mind. Try to keep 2 ideas in your mind at the same time.
Impossible.
Okay.
Impossible.
Whereas you've got some other programs that are at 9.5 in the SEC. If you go up, Georgia, I think is 9.5. You'll notice their over payout is a negative number, negative 140. So they're saying not only is Georgia going to win 10, or more, it's probable that that's going to happen. LSU plus 126. They're revamping. I think there's some reward for betting them over 9.5, but not a guaranteed thing that they're going to all have it come together. And also it's interesting to me that supposedly Sam Leavitt was Kiffin's 3rd choice at quarterback in the portal. So keep that in mind.
There is no contradiction when you understand the better team does not win the game, oftentimes.
Okay.
That's powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Vegas doesn't factor any of that.
My thing with Sark is, look, he had the Florida loss because of a bad game plan, but he generally didn't. He generally doesn't lose to teams he's not supposed to. Like that's kind of been a nice part of Sark. Is it always fun? No. You get up like by 30 points and then they make the game tight at the end. So it doesn't feel like that triumphant win, but it's not a lot of times where he's just like actually dropped the ball against a lesser opponent. It's our arguments. I'll say my arguments have always been once he gets to the cream of the crop has been the issue. But I think they have a lot of respect for our schedule. And I'm actually pretty optimistic this season. It could be because it's March 17th and reality hasn't set in, but I'm more optimistic this season definitely than I was last. But the schedule, like I said, we could improve and end up with the same record. That's possible too, right? I guess.
Yeah, it's possible. Also, here's the counterweight to this: a 10-2 Texas is going to have 2 blemishes, and they'll be in the playoff, right? And they'll be a mid seed. That's a team that you want to favor in the playoff. Yeah. Because they got in and they've actually played real football teams and learned things about themselves. Whereas Texas Tech, they're not only do they play a Big 12 schedule, and their non-con is an absolute joke. They should be embarrassed. The Big 12 schedule they play is the weakest Big 12 schedule. So they don't even get like the semi-difficult teams. I think the biggest challenge they have is Houston in Lubbock early in the season. That's their big, that's our big challenge.
You know what they say about Houston and Lubbock, though, dude?
Yeah. Watch out. So my point is Texas Tech's going to make the playoff. They might even get a high seed because they're going to have a 0 in their loss column.
Well, and too, because anybody who's not an SEC fan, which is the rest of college football, they automatically will be like rooting for Texas Tech just because it's underdog.
Sure.
Which is the annoying flip side of it. So you're going to have all this stumping for everyone who's not SEC being like, no, I think they're the real deal, man.
But just know that team knows nothing about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an interesting thing to watch in the playoffs. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. If you look at, I think, who the less valued teams are, go to Oklahoma. Over is -106, under is -114. That's basically even money. I think OU's improved pretty considerably on offense.
Yeah.
And I think I trust Venables on defense. I don't think they're going to have this fall from grace. So to me, I'm comfortable saying that's an 8-win football team or better. I understand schedule played a big role in their success. It was a bit of a mirage for them this year. But I don't know. I think they improved on offense. They really did. I mean, their tight end room, their offensive line room, wide receivers are better. I see them breaking that 7.5. And here's the great payoff, Homer. If they go 5-7 or 6-6, you'll be just fine losing that money. You'll enjoy the schadenfreude of OU having a horrific season as much as the loss of your money.
I know people that bet against Texas because then they're Texas fans. Because if they win, they feel great, and then if Texas loses, they get money.
Yeah, that's a thing.
So they play both sides of it. OU wide receiver record.
Point to is Mississippi State.
4.5.
Yeah, I like the over. I think that Lebby is doing a good job, and I know people all hate him because of the Bryles connections and all that stuff. I think he does a pretty good job, man. I think they're doing a good job,
man.
And they have an interesting quarterback who's going to be add an interesting dimension to the veer and shoot. I know you're going to miss Blake Shapen, but
yeah, legendary.
I know, but this guy might have more.
People's
talent.
Heisman, the true Heisman.
He is the true Heisman.
Yeah,
but this guy may have more talent than Blake Shapen. I'll just say that.
Okay, Paul. Okay, let's not get crazy, man.
All right.
Let's give actual analysis. Kamario Taylor is going to be a lot of fun to watch. He was fun to just watch, and they'd bring him in on goal line and see what he could do.
Yep,
I'm down with that too. I have more respect for Lebby than I think normal fans would. I don't believe in Mateer. He makes too many stupid decisions. That's true. But still, it's another year in the scheme. He is a year older. He had to go through the emotional roller coaster of like, is this Baker Mayfield? Like earlier in the season for the fans. Then he's not Baker Mayfield. Then he does all these interviews of like, yeah, I'm just not very good right now. So maybe that helps. Another year in the scheme. Added weapons never hurts a quarterback. So maybe it looks better. But there's a dimension of Mateer's soul that is going to make some dumb plays. But those dumb plays can also lead to some cool stuff too.
Go down. Maybe I have a couple of the teams I might underachieve. There you go.
Strong buys.
So Vandy, I just don't. I mean, dude, it's amazing what they've done. I'm a huge fan of Diego Pavia on the field.
You called it.
I don't think people understand how much he meant to them. And Eli Stowers was important as well. And they're starting a true freshman. Now he's a 5-star, Jared Curtis. That's awesome. But dude, he's a true freshman. I just don't see it. I think they're going to go under 6.5 wins. But I mean, if Clark Lee's the truth and they go 8-4, dude, that's it's not quite Kirk Signetti levels of like, oh my God, we just saw something historic, but it's close.
Real ones, no. And also too, I think Vanderbilt will truly design the scheme to him. They're very sober in their analysis. So I think too, like what he does well, they'll maximize for a young guy, and what he doesn't, they'll avoid. And so that matters too. They're not going to force him into the scheme, but also the brain transplant of Pavia, like they all took on his mentality and his feel. And so I think that matters too, man. Like they just became little Pavias. Even on the defense, they started like trying to fight and all that stuff.
Well, I think people would be very surprised to learn in the chat that Vanderbilt was the #1 efficiency offense in college football.
Yeah.
By a margin. And a lot of that was not only scoring a lot of points, which they did, but totally controlling the football, just controlling the football and doing it by design because their defense was not good. And the way that they kept scores down was to just control the ball and play less defense. And they purposely would even curb their offense at times, like the big play potential, just to possess the ball to finish out the half and be the last team with the ball to kick a field goal, or whatever. All that ball control is going away with Jared Curtis. He's a thrower. And that means the Vanderbilt defense is going to be even more exposed because of the absence of Pavia. So that's another factor you've got to consider. Because people, if you ask the average person, they'll say, yeah, Vanderbilt's offense was pretty good. And their defense was, they were all right. They were pretty good. No, their offense was amazing. And their defense was poor. But the offense played in a way, in a total team football sort of way, complementary football, an overused term, but true in this instance, such that they didn't expose their defense. And that's going to be missing. So I'm fading Vanderbilt. And if they prove me wrong, Clark Lee is a dude like we need to look at if Sark ever goes to the NFL.
Yeah. More on Fade Watch. Florida, Missouri, Auburn.
Yeah, I would say watch these guys. They're all 6.5 wins. Florida just got upgraded to 7.5 because of preseason bets because everyone loves their skill players. The thing to know about Florida is their offensive line got wiped out. Yeah. And they actually had a good offensive line. You just couldn't tell because their play calling and Lagway were so terrible. Missouri, they're playing a big boy SEC schedule for the first time in a long time. So finally. Keep your eyes on that. And then Auburn, they brought their quarterback from USF. They brought the receivers. That's great. Their offensive line got devastated and their defense got devastated. So Auburn's going to be highly entertaining. They're going to play a bunch of shootouts. It's going to be fun to watch them play. They might get outscored a lot. And teams like Florida, Missouri, and Auburn, they'll be susceptible to the Mississippi States of the world. That's if you're going through their schedules and putting a W next to Mississippi State, don't. Those will be competitive games. So I would say watch the offseason like a hawk. And if you're hearing bad stuff about Auburn's D and O-line, if you're hearing bad stuff about Florida's O-line and D-line, which also got wiped out, if you're hearing bad stuff about Austin Simmons at quarterback at Missouri or their D-line, they have to replace their entire D-line, and their D-line was very talented last year, then bet the under. But don't do that yet because you don't actually know. So wait for spring and fall camps, and you'll find out.
What's the Florida coach name? Summerall?
Summerall.
He I sent it in the group chat, but where he was like, I'm getting a little nervous. Where he was basically like, he was very honest of like, I thought we had more than we have. And I honestly think him admitting that makes it more likely that they're better. Because that's just a very honest approach.
Yeah. Well, I think that Jaden Baugh heard that and he was like, oh. I was supposed to come back and triumphantly lead us to a 9-win, 10-win season and rush for 2,000 yards and win the Heisman. Yeah. And then he's realizing like that entire O-line that I ran behind is gone. And several of those guys are going to get drafted. Like watch the NFL draft. A bunch of Florida guys will go. Yeah. And Florida also lost their D-line. So like last year was Florida's year. And they didn't get the memo.
Something about Billy, one of the worst game day coaches. What was so interesting is like their scheme made sense. Like it was just when they would call, how they would call situationally. But like the only thing is they were super NFL, man. Like it was these like 20-yard in breakers and stuff. Like you had to have a huge arm. But people would always be like, his scheme sucks. His scheme sucks. It's like it didn't. Like it was very sound. It made sense. It was just I guess the sequencing was off there. And then of course, like his timeout management and stuff like that. But like, I didn't hate their scheme. It did require a big arm. I don't know, man. I think there was a lot of Lagway in that too. I think Lagway just, when they did that SEC show that came out in the preseason.
Yeah.
They kept like Lagway would be on it. And he just like 3 or 4 separate times mentioned not being nervous. If you mention not being nervous for the season once, I'm like, okay. Then you mention it twice, 3. I'm like, this guy's clearly is a little bit more nervous than he's letting on. And he keeps trying to present this cool and calm. And that just stuck out to me. And then it showed in his tape. He was trying to be like, I guess, the idea of the cool, calm, and collected quarterback, but he was protesting too much. And I thought that was the key, and it turned out to be the case. We'll see what he does at the next stop, Baylor, right?
Well, that SEC show was very telling because I had not watched it. I was kind of a late adopter on it. And boy, I know it's all crafted and it's marketing. Obviously, I mean, Vanderbilt just was like, you got open access to everything. Please film us. Please get our name out there.
Right.
Pavia is like going and sneaking in the weight room at 4 a.m. And they're like, are you nervous about the season? He's like, I don't, seasons don't happen to me. I happen to seasons. Like, you're just like, okay, I got it.
All right, we get it.
We're good. But then they went to follow the South Carolina coach, Beamer, and he's like goofy and weird and just like kind of silly. And that was not, that didn't inspire confidence. And then they went to cover Auburn and Hugh Freeze, and he's just reading scripture, like kind of a
cynically.
Pastor.
But
like a pastor, but with like blonde tipped hair and skinny jeans, and you're just like, this is not resonating with me at all. And you know anything about his background, and you're like,
he's a horrible person, and he's horrible guy, and he's trying to take like the Dabo.
Yeah,
he is.
Dabo's authentic. I mean, I don't care if you think
but I'm saying like
it's all real, right?
Dude, when we watched that offseason from Clemson, me and you were like, it was like Christian summer camp there, and like they're like, guys should be like, gosh dang it, man, and like,
gosh dang it, I'll get you on the next freaking route.
Yeah,
excuse me, coach. I didn't mean to say freaking there.
Yeah, I apologize for saying freaking, coach. But it was all it was legit. It was like those are just a bunch of like nice kind of.
Well, like they're having a bad practice at one point, and Dabo's like, "Come here, everybody, come here, Dad, gum it."
Yeah. I loved it, dude. Watching that, I was like, "Oh, it's
so wholesome." I know why parents send their kids to Clemson.
Yeah, you see it. But Hugh Freeze was the opposite, the cynical, like everyone needs to give me $10,000.
It seemed insincere.
Correct. But yeah, those shows, like, you're not. Of course, they're marketing. Of course, the school is granting you access with the wink of "thank you for the commercial. Do not show anything." But you still get moments where you're like, something's up here. And then Beamer is the most interesting because he gets like Big 12 treatment within the SEC. Like everyone's rooting for him as the little guy.
Yeah.
Every year. And they fail every year. But I want to just see if like on year 19, they're like, this is Beamer's year. We'll see.
Well, I tell you what, dude, they're going to the veer and shoot. And South Carolina does have athletes. So
they do that.
I mean, Lenore Sellers is a great athlete. Nick Harbor is 6'5", 240. And runs a 10-1 300 meters at receiver. Like, they've got dudes, but they're just so poorly coached on offense, and they're just poorly coached.
What was the game where Sellers had to try to put together a game-winning drive? It was late in the season. He had no, but there was one. It was A&M where I was like, he has no clue what he's doing. Like, he had no idea where to go with the ball. And I was like, like the coaching here is not good.
Well, remember that A&M South Carolina game was 30-3 at halftime.
Yep.
It was the greatest comeback in Texas A&M history.
A&M learned all the wrong lessons from that. No one talked about, they were like, look what Marcel Reed did for us. It's like, look at the situation Marcel Reed put you in. I hate when fans do that. It's like your quarterback throws 9 interceptions and then doesn't come back. It's like the problem was the 9 interceptions, not needing the comeback. The guy pushed you over the ledge and then
you were like, "Oh my God, Marcel Reed freed the hostages," and you're like, "He took the hostages."
Yeah, exactly. That drives me nuts when fans do that. I'm like, he put you in that situation, and we'll see what happens when he plays better teams, and that was the case. Yeah. All right, everybody. Head over to Inside Texas Ultimate Fan Bundle right now. 50% off. You're going to get Inside Texas, On 3, and Rivals all together. New customers only. Would absolutely love to see you over there. Of course, stay tuned in, guys, for the slate of videos coming at you later today. And this was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Later, y'all.